Welcome to Align for Impact. I'm your host, Matthew Naylor. I started this podcast because healthcare and leadership both come down to the same thing, alignment. When people, purpose, and performance connect, real impact happens. On this show, we'll talk with entrepreneurs, brokers, and change makers who are challenging what is broken in healthcare and in business, and find new ways to make a difference for companies, communities, and the people they serve. This is where I really try to interview people and speak to people that are subject matter experts in the self-insured employer health space that have a unique perspective around self-insured employers and also really have a passion and purpose in life, that want to live a life of impact, that have an entrepreneurial spirit, that are looking to make a difference. And Crumdale sits at a really interesting intersection where, you have risk financing, you have healthcare services, TPAs, PBMs, you have cost containment and point solutions, and then you have healthcare technology. And today we'll talk a little about each one of those things and how Crumdale sits at the intersection of that. And Jeramie, like what you and your firm are doing to have a positive impact in all those areas. Awesome. And where you're being disruptive. I like to start, Jeramie, with just like really, truly welcoming you to the show. You're the director of employee benefits at FNIC. You made a transition, to the best of my knowledge, to Colorado as part of your origin story here. And I like just to begin by, tell us about yourself. Where are you from?
Yep.
How'd you get into the insurance business? How'd you end up in Colorado?
So I am a diehard through and through New Jersey. So born and raised in North Jersey, little town called Hackettstown. So for those of you that are not familiar, Hackettstown's got one big famous, and it's M&M Mars. So it's one of two M&M Mars plants. So depending on the temperature and the wind, it's either smells real good or it smells like burnt chocolate and burnt butter. So that's half my family worked there, kind of a super blue collar area. Grew up with single mom, worked two jobs, just kind of got a work ethic when I was young. Graduated high school, went to Westmore Central in Chester, started attending County College of Morris, classes at Rutgers. Decided a year in that work was a whole lot more fun. So I worked for Trend Motors Volkswagen, which was the largest East Coast Volkswagen dealer. Got my ropes in the sales world, started cranking with that and said, you know what, I want to do this. Went out to visit my brother in Colorado. So I spent a week between Breckenridge and Fort Collins, and it was awesome. So in Breckenridge, there was 10 of us in a ski in, ski out for 4 days. And I'm like, this is so much better than getting, the F-bomb dropped and horn honked at me driving up and down 80, trying to go to college. So
a little different than New Jersey.
It was crazy. So much. And then Fort Collins, for anyone that's ever been to Fort Collins, it is spectacular. So I got an invite from friends of my brother who moved out before I did and said, we're getting a place in the summer. I said, you call me, not thinking anything of it. This was December. I got a call in May that said, we're getting a 3-bedroom place. You got a room. It's $275 a month. That was 2001. And I made the move from New Jersey to Colorado. And it fell in love with Colorado quickly. I got drawn back for a very short period of time to New Jersey. So my wife, I knew from 8th grade, didn't speak to her for probably 5 years. She went to school at Wilkes-Barre in PA. I got a random MySpace message. This is going way back.
Wow.
MySpace. And my wife said, I heard you were back home. You never saw me. And I said, you never called me. And I'm like, crazy. I haven't talked to you in 6 years. Who are you? Right? Just kind of joking around. And phone rang. We chatted. I flew home 5 times to New Jersey in 3 months. Ended up moving back for 10 months for her. And then was like in a clinical state of depression. I was like, Colorado's so nice. I miss the sun. These people are nasty to me. I don't remember what this is like. And I said, I love you, but I'm going back to Colorado with or without you. And she said, I'll try it. And that was 2007. So we moved back to Colorado in 2007, and we've been back in Colorado ever since. So that was my New Jersey to Colorado lineage, but been in the sales world for a long period of time. And actually, it took that move back to New Jersey to get me out of the car dealership motorsports world. So that's what I loved. Still do to this day. And we'll get into that too, about how I'm still connected in that world. But Saturdays, nights, all the time, I didn't have it. Right. So when you work in the car business, you're the last one in the dealership. It could be at 10 o'clock at night. You're there on Saturdays, you're grinding it out, right? You're trying to make the deal, and it's every day is a new day. So when I moved back to New Jersey, I was interviewing car dealerships, knew that I didn't really want to do that back east again. So I ended up working for a company called ADP, Automatic Data Processing, which you're probably familiar with, largest payroll company. And I had many roles inside of ADP. And my last role was managing part of their BPO and PEO division. And that's where I got into a taste of the benefits world. So I got the understanding of that, the HR side of it, the benefit side of it, the client side of it, the payroll side of it. I had all aspects of it. So I ended up dipping my toes back in 2007, even selling some benefits plans back then, which then transitioned into Speed Up. Had a bunch of COIs that I was referring business to. They said, well, why don't you just come sell insurance for a living? And I said, no way. You guys are sleazy. This is not the world I want to be in. And I said, I don't want that reputation. They said, well, have you ever heard of residual income? And I said, what's that? And they said, well, you don't have to start over every year. And I said, when do I start? That was it. That was my jump straight into in benefits in 2010. Yeah.
And you've been at FNIC for 50?
So now actually a couple agencies before FNIC, but myself and a partner of mine were contemplating, after being at different agencies and kind of seeing the right way to do it, the wrong way to do it, P&C driven agencies, not. We were contemplating actually going out on our own and starting our own thing. I was of the belief, hey, I'm making a lot of people a lot of money. But I'm having to fall in line, right? I'm having to just quote what the agency's persistency bonus it was, right? So I was quoting the Uniteds, quoting the Cignas, quoting the, just the incentive aspect of it versus what was right for the client, which then prompted me to want to really go out on my own and do it. So I actually approached a good friend of mine who worked for FNBO Bank. So phenomenal family-owned bank, 160 years out of the Midwest, Omaha, Nebraska, First National Bank of Omaha. And he said, yeah, instantly, within 30 seconds, craziest conversation. I said, I need about $2 to $3 million. I want to start this, go buy my book, start this on my own. He goes, yeah, sounds good. Like, that was easy. This should have asked earlier. And he said, but before you do that, we've been trying to get into Colorado. We have an insurance arm. Been trying to get into Colorado for a long time. Either other agencies don't want to sell, we haven't found the right people. Would you be interested in listening? I'm like, working for somebody else again. I don't know. But I'll listen, right? If you're willing to give me a couple million, I'll listen at least. And I got a text about 4 or 5 days later that says the president of the agency wants to talk to you. I said, okay, sounds good. Give him my cell phone. Less than 60 seconds, my phone rang. I remember it vividly because we have terrible cell phone reception on our main road going up and down. Busiest road in Fort Collins, but terrible phone reception. So I pull into a Walmart parking lot. The only way I knew in the Walmart parking lot I'd have good phone reception. An hour and a half later, after speaking with the head of sales at the time and the Scott Hill, the agency president, we hit it off on the phone. But I knew, I'm like, well, it's exciting, right? But I'm selling him, he's selling me, we're selling each other on each other. Let's slow play this. And it was about a 4 or 5 month time frame. Feeling it out, still grinding, nose to the ground, making sure I was hitting my numbers. Still, finished that year at the previous agency, as the top broker. But it really took the meeting with the ownership group of FNBO Bank. The family aspect of it is what sold me, because they said, we clearly tried to do this our way and buy our way into the state. It didn't work. He said, and I'm a big man of faith. He said to me, he goes, whether you believe in God or not, we were going to be talking in the next. I said, what do you mean? He said, we have a list, and you were top of the list from multiple carriers as to, well, if we can't buy our way in, who should we go get? Which was super flattering at the time, right? And so I say that out loud just more for my own ego than anything. But that was it. It was started maybe August, September, culminated December 15th of 2022, and first time that the company had gone from scratch without buying their way into a different market. And we started FNIC Colorado December 15th, 2022.
Wow. It's a really cool story because I didn't know this part of your story. Yeah. You got a lot in there around like grit and determination and self-belief and just a lot of awesome things when I think about leadership and how to build great businesses. Tell us about FNIC today. Like, how big is the business? What do you guys focus on?
So it's a super unique, I'm sure there'll be several people that say that. It's unique in the fact that it is bank owned. We're the second largest bank owned insurance agency in the country.
Really?
We are. But it's even crazier that bank is owned by one family.
Wow.
So technically, if you look, we're one of the largest family owned agencies, if you look at it, that aspect of it. So Clark Lawrence and the Lawrence family, 167 years, 6th generation. Clark is mid-40s, one of the most phenomenal humans I've ever met. He's of the belief, if we're going to bank and we're going to be in the community, we might as well have an insurance arm to insure the same thing we're lending. Their goal isn't to just go gobble up California and Idaho and everywhere around the world just because an agency is for sale. Is if we have banking in that market, we want the insurance arm to be side by side because we want to make sure the community has all aspects of what we can offer. So FNBO as a whole, again, 160 plus years, banking, they are Omaha through and through. So you have crop, ton of crop. You have agricultural, you have property casualty, you have benefits, you have personal lines, so on and so forth. So we are a true independent agency that has all aspects of it. But I would say that one of technically our fastest growing, because of an acquisition sector, is crop. Our second would be employee benefits. So our employee benefits, I think our agency as a whole is about 75 million. We are on pace by 2030 to be $100 million agency, which is great. And our benefits arm is probably somewhere between 15 to 20 million. And if I have anything to do with it, I think we're going to make that the fastest growing sector. It's a hard industry to get into in the Midwest or in a preconceived state of Blue Cross has just always been here, kind of boring, don't want to get into it. So I think the hardest part for us to get to that next level is finding the right talent to believe in next wave of thinking, and then also find the right clients that are willing to step out of that traditional BUCA box and start thinking alternative strategy.
And Jeramie, let's talk about that for a second. You and your firm around being innovative, creative, and disruptive. What are some of the things that you're doing that allow you to stand out in a pretty crowded space?
Yeah. So I can tell you, Colorado, a unique part of our agency is market demographics change big time. So Illinois, Omaha, Iowa, North Dakota, South Dakota, Colorado. None of those markets are the same. Maybe Iowa and maybe Omaha, right? They're very close. North Dakota, South Dakota are even completely different. Illinois, drastically different, right? So Illinois is a very Blue Cross Blue Shield, which is great. We have phenomenal relationships, ton of business, work real well. Some of our brokers in Illinois are of the belief, well, no one wants to listen to anything because they're so used to Blue Cross Blue Shield. So when I came on board, my goal through trial and error, right, through other agencies and through touting, again, nothing against our other partners in the Blue Cross world. We need them greatly, right? And they serve a great role. But getting the demographic Sorry, your group's running well, but the demographics changed slightly, so that'll be an 18%. Or sorry, they're not big enough, so we're going to go on manual and it'll be 23%, without any chance of negotiation. So I think that was part of the reason, even going back to me wanting to start my own thing, is I didn't want to fall in line. I just felt like I was a Me Too, and I'm not a Me Too type of person. So I hunkered down back in probably 2017, 18, 19, and vowed to learn everything that is not normal about this industry. Crazy enough, and we talked about it previously, but Buzz's second month on the job in Tampa, Florida, Buzz was out on a road show with Jake down at a Insight. So Ignite was the name of the conference. Insight, Larry Lenny, shout out to Larry Lenny, great mentor of mine, was teaching things back in 2018 about having more of a consultative conversation versus just quote and pray, right? So I didn't want to be a quote and pray broker. So I learned, what does self-funding mean? Because back then it was level funded, maybe graded funded if you're slightly intelligent in the world. And I'm like, I don't want anything to do with that. Tell me about carve-outs. Tell me about captives, right? Let's learn about every aspect and start having different conversations, right? So Larry taught me to not just ask for a spreadsheet and ask for a budget, but to dive deeper and find out, what are you trying to accomplish with this benefit? What are you trying to accomplish not only today, but 5 years from now, 10 years from now? And are you trying to do it for the business, or are you trying to do it for the employees? Or do your employees drive your business so that the employees are most important? And if they are affected positively, the business wins. And that's just the background of the why. And that came with everything under the sun, from diving into specific RX carve out to diving into captives to diving into, even giving up some control and using offsite, telephonic, in-person enrollment firms to boost education, right? So you can put out a product, you can put out an idea, you can put out a culture driving change, but if you don't educate to the hilt, none of it will matter.
It's interesting because as a broker and as an agency, I'm sure you get a lot of point solution and maybe point solution fatigue. How do you go about finding really good partners that are aligned with, you, your agency, your mission, your vision, your values? How do you do that?
Phenomenal question. You couldn't be more right. I would say even being here today, I can probably go in my inbox and find 5 that I just swipe and delete. And there could be some good information in there. And it's just at some point, and it takes work. I mean, it takes a ton of work to identify what type of market, industry, product, culture you want to be focused on. And then the interview process begins, right? So the interview process meaning who's the players in the game? How are they operating? Let me get some references. Let me do some checks. And then to me, and again, not a plug, even though we're here with Crumdale, to me, it's all about the people inside, right? So you could have the best possible product solution in the world, but if you have the wrong people delivering it, it won't matter. I am a huge believer of give before you shall receive. So what I mean by that is I like to, whether it be with my clients, whether it be with my COI partners, like I'm gonna give you everything that I have, and then in return, I know the karma word, it's gonna come back tenfold, right? So when I trust in a partner, trust in a solution, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna give you, here you go. Here's 3, 4, 5, 6 opportunities. Show me what you got. Where I see a lot of people playing hardball. It's like, well, you give me everything you have. Maybe I'll give you a little bit. I'm like, here's what I have to offer. Here's what my, because if you got it, my clients are going to win, right? When I threw Crumdale back in 2018, 19, a wicked idea at a previous agency I was at, they clung on to it. It wasn't common to them, but it was like we like it. Give us a little bit of time. We'll figure out a solution. 90 days later, the solution was there, rolled out a product exclusive to our marketplace, right? So when I evaluate it, I evaluate not only does it fit what I'm trying to accomplish and what my clients need, but are the people there? And one of the biggest questions I ask, and I ask it through and through, and at the end of the day, right, everyone's going to either sell at some point, they're going to, management's going to turn over, ownership might turn over, but, and I get asked this question too, is how long are you going to be here, right? Like, how long are you going to be in this marketplace? Because if I put my clients at risk, if I put my reputation at risk, 5 years down the road, I'm 43, 10 years down the road, are you still going to be here helping me fight this battle that we built a long-term strategy for? So all that comes into play. And I can tell you, while evaluating these things, so many ideas, so many companies, the same person that I started with is not the same person, maybe even the third or fourth person. That's even.
Jeramie, I love your, I can think back when I think we engaged as a firm with you and your firm. And when I speak to the lack of alignment, the lack of transparency, the lack of really good fiduciary duty, the lack of really great data, I'm now thinking about this opportunity that you just mentioned where, it sits in the right spot of the intersection.
Mm-hmm.
So, you have risk financing, which is, reinsurance or program management, captives,
Correct.
the Sun Lifes of the world. You have this healthcare services, the TPA, PBMs. Then you have this like cost containment networks, narrow networks,
Mm-hmm.
high performing networks, reference-based pricing, case management, disease management, and then this healthcare technology. I think I recall this correctly, but you brought us an opportunity that was unique to your innovation,
Mm-hmm.
your idea
Mm-hmm.
around how to bring a network,
Mm-hmm.
a high-performing network, and bring some administrative services, not all of them, but two pieces that you thought were going to be very high-performing,
Mm-hmm.
but you wanted them to be integrated in a way that would allow you to bring something to the market that would reduce costs, produce a better outcome, and create a better experience.
Spot on.
And I think, it's probably like 3, 4, 5 years ago.
Yeah, it would have been 1920.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How's that perform for you and your firm?
So luckily enough for them, so it was actually at a previous, where this all started was at a previous agency.
Okay.
And it's going well, right? They are creative. Nothing bad to say about what they're doing. Happen to be a highly PNC driven. So to me, my eager willingness to spread the wings, spread the wealth, was not that vision wasn't there. What they have and what they're doing with it is awesome.
Yep.
What we decided to do with Crumdale and that at our new agency, the wings are as wide open as it gets.
Yep.
And the creativity, I think it increases on a regular basis, right? So you were spot on though, right? The market by us had none of that. Had no employee engagement, had no cost containment parameters outside of maybe a telemedicine app, right? That was the most innovative thing for a long period of time is, we have Healthiest You can call when you're home. Wow, crazy. And nothing else came along with it, right? There was no follow-up. So it was how do we build in direct primary care? How do we build in, at-home visits? How do we build in pharmaceutical rebates where you can actually keep that? Like those are pieces, when you start investigating what the market has to offer, you're like, I can actually put all those puzzle pieces together and it doesn't have to be under one big box with a giant logo everybody's seen before. That's the fun part. The challenging part is to get the clients and the community to believe that, the puzzle pieces that isn't, the Pepsi, Coke, Sprite of the world, to believe that is truly the best solution. So it comes with a ton of education where, again, going back to if you have the right people that can help you tell the story with the right answers and the right data behind it, people will buy it.
It's interesting to me, Jeramie, that, you and your firm have lots of choices, to pick from in a very large, highly fragmented market. You've we're one of your partners,
Yep.
not 100%
Yep.
of your business. But you picked Crumdale for some of your level funded business. You've picked us for some of your captive business. You've leaned on us and picked us for some of maybe your PBM business.
Correct.
Why?
Yeah. So a lot of reasons. And again, it's tough as a broker to claim friendship, alliance, allegiance with another specific carrier, because LinkedIn, everybody's best friend professionally. You post something that says, hey, great event, great success with this company. And then you get the Bucas of the world. Then you get the other captives of the world. It's like, well, he's a that guy, right? And I do it proudly because I do it with going to market with those other players. I do it with going side by side and not being exclusive. And I love the fact that when I give an opportunity to Crumdale, it's an honest opportunity with transparency that says, by the way, X, Y, and Z's come into play as well. And Crumdale doesn't even blink. They're like, that's fine, because we're going to put our best foot forward. We're not going to change it because you told us somebody else is in there. This is what we have. This is the best case scenario. And 8 out of 10 times, right, to your point, it's not 100%, whether the group's health, whether the network just doesn't make sense, whether there's a need that is not available. But 8 out of 10 times with confidence. And I can tell you that to this day, not a single one of those groups that I've placed has left. That's huge. I can't say that with any one of my other carriers, right? So we have a good amount of business on 4 different types of funding, whether it be stop loss only, whether it be RX only, integrated health solutions, multiple captive groups now, and they're all performing well. And I think the biggest part, and John's going to love me internally, is the fact that Crumdale has an advocacy team that will handhold every single one of the most important parts of every one of my groups, which is the employees, will hold their hand through from start to finish on any scenario that they get into, with the data for us behind the scenes to back it up that says, we contacted, the problem was, here's who was involved, here's the solution, and here's the result. Here's even the survey that the employee took afterwards that said, we're satisfied, everything was completed. So that doesn't happen. There might be other vendors, and in my inbox after this might say, hey, we got that too. Great, I'll welcome it. Because if at the end of the day, if there's other solutions out there that help my client, that's what matters. But to this point, I haven't found something as consistent that checks those boxes and gets the clients calling saying, hey, thanks so much. They took care of my situation. They got my script filled. They eliminated cost for me. They got the provider to key in my name right, whatever it may be. They identified the problem. They solved it in a very short period of time, and we're moving forward. So for that's the reason I think of the crowded market, why we continue to put business.
Is there anything that you're working on that you're thinking of not where the market is, but where the market's going, that you see that's evolving that you're excited about?
Yeah. Actually had a meeting yesterday. A group, probably 600 employees, 1,300 members. They're in a specific agriculture industry. And they asked, hey, well, we've got a lot of other folks in the same industry. What if we compile all of these like-minded businesses together? Can we form our own captive, right? We're already meeting in meetings regarding seed, water rights, hay, you name it, right? Why not get us all on the same page, get the heads that are already communicating together, and why don't we tackle this healthcare thing as a whole? So if I can make find a niche, multiple niches, and take a large population of folks, bring them a solution, because when one good gets spread, it impacts a whole lot more people. And specific to certain industries, you have hesitance inside the employee aspect of it because they're not educated and they just say, yeah, I'm not interested. I know I have it, but I'm not going to use it because no one teaches me how to use it. So not only get inside and make an impact, but also educate the workforce on how to properly use it. I tell this in everyone. I still do open enrollment meetings. I get criticized all the time of like, why are you wasting your time? Get somebody else to do that. Because my belief is if I build your program, if I build your solution, if I tell you this is what's going to work, but I'm not willing to educate your employees on how to make it work, I don't think there's no reason to do it. Down the road, as we grow, I'd like to find somebody that can educate alongside of me so I, can continue up doing other things. But if we can get those industries moving in the right direction and we can get the education spread, more widespread, I think that's the future, is creating more niche areas to not just impact one organization, but maybe make a bigger impact in an entire industry.
Jeramie, we, on the risk financing side, there's lots of captive solutions out there that focus on risk financing. But I find it interesting that those vehicles allow for employers to make lots and lots of point solution choices around TPAs and PBMs and networks and cost containment and care navigation. What's your perspective on, does that work when you have you just used your agriculture example and you got a bunch of employers in the room. I guess I could understand a little bit if someone wants the Aetna network versus the Anthem network. But it's confusing to me when you're all trying to have real integration and operating leverage to drive to better outcomes and lower cost. How do you do that if you have a whole bunch of different disparate providers all in the same risk financing vehicle? What's your perspective on that?
Yeah. So there's a couple ways, to look at it, right? So I think there's a convenience factor to have everything under one little box, right? So whether that's a Cigna, Aetna, United, doesn't matter, box, right? Everything's under there. But when you're in that box, if you don't like a bit or a piece of that box, you're in it. You're in the box. There's no ladder out, right? You got to deal with this. Or if there isn't a lever to pull to educate, or there isn't a level to pull to find a script outside of the country, or there isn't a lever to pull to get a rebate for a drug that's $80,000 that could be $8. So it's a double-edged sword to where you want the convenience of having it all wrapped up, but when it's all wrapped up and it's easy, it doesn't mean it's the most efficient. So I challenge, and Naisha, who's my account manager, best account manager in the world, she laughs at me all the time. It's funny because we're here. There's a book that we were given. In the book, it said something along the lines of, the optimal broker challenges the status quo. Looks for the complicated way to go around things. That's me, right? So I don't mind having 5 puzzle pieces inside, because if it's the best in class data analytics that's going to deliver my client the information that will then pull the lever to get the best stop loss result. And if the stop loss carrier has a better payment strategy with Anthem, which might be the best network in rural America, right? I just named 5 different. I didn't name Anthem on all of it. There was 5 different puzzle pieces that will all work together. The key, though, is having proper management of all of them. Because if all 5 can't talk to each other, again, you're back to square one. So having a program manager that oversees those puzzle pieces and finding best in class, and knowing that each year, each one of those jobs are on the line, right? So if you're not performing network, we're going to find one that's performing better. If you're not performing, pharmacy, we're gonna find somebody that can actually take the Humaras, the AstraZenecas, and we're going to go get it cheaper, and we're going to eliminate the cost of the employee. So I like, and I'm not scared by any means of having multiple aspects of it, and actually bringing that to a larger group of folks and saying, hey, if we can control, instead of just buying all of your hay from Jim's hay, right? What if Sally's in Nebraska was more dense, more nutrient rich, and at 10 cents less, per would that be more valuable? But then also sourcing this in Iowa and doing, well, yeah. But if we buy it as a whole, as a conglomerate, we can get it cheaper for everybody else. And we can consistently update everybody as to where, why, and how it's working. So this group is educating this group, and everybody wins as a whole. So for some, they might get scared. For me, I might give me as many vendors as possible that we can vet, and let's find the best group. But I think most importantly is finding that true program manager that can keep the puzzle pieces together. Because our job as a broker is to go find those puzzle pieces, but then to get out there and educate in the world for multiple. We just need to make sure that, whether that's the TPA side, that's the Premdel, captive layer, whatever that may be, that's the most important part. The puzzle pieces can interchange because their job's on the line every year. They got to perform.
Yeah. Well, Jeramie, I really appreciate the time today. It was awesome conversation, a lot of fun, and you and your firm have a really, really bright future going forward. You guys are doing great stuff.
We hope so. And if we can make an impact every day, that's all that matters.
Thanks.
Yeah. Appreciate it.
This is Matthew Naylor. You've been listening to Aligned for Impact.